Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable program. My name is Paul Dingerman. Glad to have you along. This show gives us a chance to sit down with some important people in the Blue Water area and talk about projects that they have coming up. Talk to them in a little more depth than we do on some of our other programming. That is no different today. We are really honored to have Mr. Robert Klingler along with us today, who's the owner of the wonderful Coast Guard cutter Bramble. And you are here to talk to us about that wonderful ship that you are keeping in this Blue Water area. We salute you for that. We
Thank you, Paul.
salute you for everything, all the efforts that you're doing in Blue Water area. Very active Marine City, very active throughout the county. You brought along a couple guests with you, Mike Murray, and Mike and I are old friends from years gone by. Good to see you. Welcome to the set, and Tony Zielinski. Good to see you, buddy.
Hi, Paul.
Talk to me, Robert, Bob, about what's happening with the Bramble. Before we started, you mentioned to me that it might be a good idea to just review how the Bramble got here.
I'm going to, for those that haven't seen us before, haven't been to the ship, and actually that happens more often than you think, Paul. Mm-hmm. So just give a little background and capsule summary how we got to the point where my wife and I, Sarah, actually ended up acquiring the ship. Let's start out basically back in World War II. They commissioned 39 Coast Guard cutters that were seagoing, and they were also built for ice breaking. In that case, the Bramble, which is up in Port Huron, stationed up there, the bean dock, that is number Hull 18. So Zenith Dredge built that. It's about 180 feet long. 37 feet wide. It draws about 13 feet of water. It's about 1,100 tons fighting weight. So it's got quite a bit of weight to it. It's driven by diesels into electric motors. So when you break ice, you don't break the ship. In that case, it went to war. It was started in 42. In 44, it was commissioned, sent out North Atlantic sea trials. It went to war, and it had certain things on it. It had a 3-inch gun, actually artillery. It had 20 millimeter guns. It had depth charges. It actually has a magazine down inside it, and you can see on that picture right about midship, you see that gun pointing out.
Yeah, right.
That is a 3-inch gun. It's not on it right now, but we do have certain parts of World War II still in there. The magazine, for instance, mm-hmm. where you keep shells, ammunitions, M16s, 45 calibers. So moving ahead, after it spent that time in World War II, and it was out in the Pacific, it moved into what was a big thing. It ended World War II. The Bramble actually went to the Bikini Atoll.
Wow.
And did atomic testing in the Marshall Islands. It did. It's called Operation Crossroads, and as you can see, that was quite an event. They had almost 100 ships. Bramble helped moor them, put them in place. So engineering-wise, they knew what sort of detriment. One bomb was in the air. Then they blew up one in the water.
Oh my God!
It was. They actually had 23 different tests there.
So it just wasn't one that one picture shows.
And we were involved in 2 of those shipwise. So, you know, as part of the gift that we wanted to save was the ship. For instance, the Ghost Fleet, which is MARAD. It's in Suisun Bay. It's in Beaumont, Texas, and James River. Used to be 8 different fleets after the war, 800 ships.
Wow.
Right now, today, head count, 100 ships.
Wow.
We just had one of our ships that was with us go ahead and actually get scrapped out to store us, which was a sad thing, and because as in the next slide would show, there were 3 ships, you know, Storus, Spar, and Bramble. We actually circumnavigated the North Pole.
Wow. What year was that? After
That
the war.
was 1957.
Wow.
So we've been in the Pacific, A-bombs. We've been the first ships to circumnavigate the North Pole. Quite a bit of ground that ship itself has covered. And we've also been stationed all over the place. Unfortunately, the Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, we've been there. It's been stationed Miami, San Diego.
Since 9/11, it's been at Gitmo?
It's been in Gitmo probably in the mid 80s, around
earlier,
in there.
Earlier.
When it was doing the drug interdiction
Yep,
type work back at that point.
Okay.
So it's been in Anchorage, Alaska, Honolulu, Miami, San Diego, and then it came.
Well-traveled ship.
Then it came to Detroit. After those times, they got stationed in Detroit, short period. Then it came up to Port Huron. The good thing about all those places that it was stationed is about every month we have a coastie, retired more than likely, some not, but they actually come up, they call and they go, I'm going to Minnesota, but can I see the Bramble? So they drive out of their way. They were stationed in
Isn't that a wonderful thing?
66, 68, or maybe 78 to 80.
Great memories. And
in that case, it's the gift that we can give back to those people.
Right.
They're very emotional about it.
Yep.
It was probably one of their times in their life where they had the young spirit. They had no restrictions, no limitations. They had a team and they worked together. So when they come on board ship, it is emotional. And Mike will speak to that a little bit here in a bit, as far as how they feel once they step back on board. Let me say that that is a gift. Like I say, there was 800 ships. Now there's 100. They're going to the scrapyard every day. As part of that, to save it, the Bramble is part of the National Historic Place. Okay, so it's registered, and it's basically encapsulated in that time frame, so that people can come up as it is preserved, and actually it looks just like it did when it was decommissioned.
Does that status then mean it cannot be scrapped?
It almost was scrapped.
Right.
And it didn't have the status. It was for sale. It got the National Historic Place status, and then we bought it.
Okay.
We didn't want to take any chance that it was going to get cut down to the water, be a barge, or be made into drywall screws and nails. So as far as the recent achievements, I would like to go over a big picture. In
absolutely.
2013, we built a crew out of basically starting from scratch, and it's a crew that is it's not Coast Guard people that are active. It's you, me, Mike, Tony. We solicited people that would be interested in preserving the ship as a tour, as like a museum, and also getting it underway, which is
major accomplishment.
Very unusual. So in 13, we closed on the ship. We bought it, that is. In July, we opened it up. We started tour season already. And then in 14, I had, after about 6 months, we had taken with a curator of the Coast Guard and the bell. The ship's bell was not on board. So what we did is, almost to the day, a year after we bought it, we got the ship's bell back.
Oh my God.
And that ship's bell is the heart and soul of the ship.
Oh, absolutely.
That was the way that...
If she was aboard, that bell was commissioned with it when it was...
when it slid into the water the first time, it had that bell on it.
Marvelous.
And that is property of the U.S. Coast Guard.
Okay.
It's not our property, but they were nice enough to marry it back in with the ship so everybody could enjoy that.
Wonderful.
that was a big landmark item. And we also did, we had a couple, thanks to Rick Snyder, we have to give him kudos. The film industry, Michigan spent money attracting films.
Right.
Typically, they would spend $32, $34 million on like Transformers and other films. We were asked to participate in that as a ship, and then as a bonus in August of 14, the ship itself with part of our crew were actually filmed in a major motion picture.
Wow, what an exciting.
It's not out yet.
Okay.
But it's
momentarily.
very close.
Very close.
Very close. So
that's exciting.
That was a big time, and like we had picture-wise, we had all of our engines running except the main engines. So Malcolm Marine towed us down on the hip, side by side, like you saw, and we went down to Detroit to a disclosed location, which I can talk.
There's the picture again.
Yeah.
So Malcolm Marine is on the right.
He's a small guy, and Bramble's the one on the left. So we had the crew. We have about, as far as the crew goes, anywhere from 25 to 35 people.
Volunteers.
Yeah, and they
That's
all show up. Wonderful group, very dedicated. So that was in 14. Now last year we got the main engines running, changed what we needed to bring it up, and Tony's going to tell you about that from the engineering side. Okay. We actually went out on sea cruises, and if you can take a look at this, that was our June 20 cruise. We went under the Blue Water Bridge,
exciting,
all on our own power. Went out into Lower Lake Huron, and we had about 30 souls on board that were crew. We went out. We did a man overboard.
Oh my God!
We did an anchor drill with a Williamson turn. We went back and saved a piece of plastic bag that was floating in the lake out of nowhere. So we did a pop-up drill there. Had lunch, came back, all under our own power.
Oh, that had to be a great feeling.
And
great
tied
feeling.
up. And we had people come from Norfolk, past captain, and we also had a Lieutenant J.G. came over from Baltimore.
Wow.
To join our crew, and they also did that in September.
Now, did you have to get a Great Lakes pilot, or you have a pilot, a member of the crew?
We had Coast Guard pilot, but we in the river itself, in that system, we have a Lakes Association pilot.
Okay.
And in that case, they know the river,
right.
They know what the current is.
Right.
And if you're a foreign ship or a private large boat like we are, you need to have them on board. The insurance makes you do that, but it's a very good idea.
But once you get on the lake, then you can run it yourself?
Pretty much, we run it ourselves. The pilot will sit next to you and say, the current, I would suggest you aim 20 degrees to the port. He's very experienced.
And that's good to have aboard. Good to have aboard.
That was excellent. So in the sea trial sense, we had 2 outings, and they were both very, very productive. We had a couple things we had to tweak, but by the end of September, we felt that we could go places, and we could put something together. So, in that case, we got organized. We had the crew that everybody was assigned positions according to their capabilities, and we had briefings. It was a wonderful 2 separate sea trials.
Yeah.
And Paul, like I was saying, in order to get to that point where we did all that sea trials and motivation with all the systems running, I'd like to have Tony give a little background about what it took to basically take a ship that was a museum ship, unplugged and dark, up to that state. So, Tony, if you would.
Well, Tony, welcome to the roundtable set. You've been around St. Clair and Marine City for quite a while.
I
Talk
have.
to me about how you got involved in this.
I got involved in this by, I'm basically a mechanic for Bob and Sarah Klingler.
Okay.
And one day Bob pulled me into his office and said, what do you know about Coast Guard cutters? I said, I don't know a thing about them. And he goes, well, you might want to start studying. So I
Right.
just bought one.
Oh, my God.
So that's how it started. And since then, it's been, I've been very involved in it over the last 3 years. It's, reading and studying about it every night, about the systems, about lake vessels and such. But,
Well, Tony's not saying the big picture. Tony is forensic, so I felt very comfortable with Tony because he's a systems guy and he finds out why things aren't working and fixes them. He's not just the knuckle buster mechanic.
Right.
He's a systems guy, and in that case,
That's important in this situation.
we needed to get big pictures and bounce things off each other, which has worked out wonderfully.
How many, Bob referred to the fact that we had all but our main engine underway. How many engines are aboard?
Well, we have 4 Detroit diesels. They're,
4 of them.
Yep,
Wow.
they're 671s. 2 are naturally aspirated and 2 are turbocharged. Those run auxiliary systems.
Which would be what? Auxiliary systems? Like lights?
Ship service generators, yep, which would supply electrical power for the ship when we're not attached to the key. And then we've got a Detroit diesel that controls a bow thruster, which gives which gives you thrust port side and starboard side. It's basically looks like a sideways propeller in a tunnel, and that's very good for maneuvering and docking. And the other one we've got Detroit diesel-wise is we have a what we call the 3-space, and that is controls our hydraulics for the boom, and also the single-point davit that's up on the boat deck, so we can get the rescue boat off the ship. But it also provides us with emergency backup electricity.
Okay.
So
All right.
if both our ship service generators were to go down, we do have a limited amount of backup power on this system here.
Okay.
Those. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Those are the auxiliary engines. The 2 main diesel engines are EMD 8 645s, and they basically run. They're the prime movers for a large DC generator genset, and we have 2 of those, and those feed electricity back to the electric motor, which propels the prop shaft and the wheel.
So there's a lot of work there.
Oh boy, there is a lot of work there.
It's a 365-day kind of love.
Oh
you
yeah,
got
yeah.
going on.
Exactly.
You mentioned the bow thrusters. Were the bow thrusters there when the boat was launched, or was that an after?
It was an addition. It was what they call a major renovation. And when we started with this, there are a lot of batteries on board this ship. Each of the diesels has 4 batteries, and then the main engines, the big diesels, have a 64-volt battery, which is cell-wise, I believe, 16 different batteries.
Oh my God.
So part of it was we actually built rigging equipment. We're not 20 years old, trust me.
You're about 24, 25.
And so what we use a little bit of ingenuity and mechanical advantage. Some of these larger batteries, how big were as far as weight goes, those for the main engines, they were over 300 pounds, weren't they?
About 300 pounds. We've got 8 of them that are basically about as low into the ship as you can go. There's a battery box that sits down between the 2 main diesel engines. And we've got 8 batteries. They're 300 pounds apiece, so we had to bring them up 2 decks, get them out onto the buoy deck. We used the buoy deck crane to move them over to the dock, and then we just reversed the procedure with the new batteries, put the new batteries, hoisted them with the buoy crane onto the buoy deck, and then carted them down 2 more decks to the battery box and put them in.
Let's stop right there about batteries and parts. This vessel was built in the 40s. Now, you and I were talking before we went on the air about radio and TV equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes you can't get parts for equipment. Do you find that when in this ownership of the Bramble? Or do you have to manufacture your own?
You know, there's the internet and there's
Yeah.
eBay.
Right.
A lot of stuff is like the main engines are those used on diesel locomotive trains.
Okay. All right.
Big help there. So
Yeah.
and also we have to give kudos. Part of our crew are people that work for other people that take their personal time off, and one of them is an ex-Bramble Acacia crew member,
Wow.
Coasty, that works and he does the big diesel engines on the Lakers.
Oh my God.
So I mean, we've really pulled a lot of people that love the ship together with a lot of expertise, and that's why it works.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been doing that for 3 years now.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know, and one of the things, there's a cute story that I'll have Tony tell you about the rigid hull inflatable. We put new sponson on it, but we went for sea trials. Tony, tell them what happened with that little boat.
After that's right there is a picture of the rigid hull inflatable boat, and we put all new sponsons on. And that's the inflatable portion of the boat. The old ones were leaking, and they're in pretty rough shape from years of service. But we were out on our first sea trial with it. We launched in the St. Clair Boat Harbor, pointed it out into the big river, and started north. And there was a sea ray with a couple of guys on it flagging us down, and they had a freighter coming downbound in the background, and we hooked up a tow rope to them right there. And, pulled them out of the channel.
Oh my God!
And
Oh my
pulled them
God!
back to the St. Clair Boat Harbor.
Oh my God! So that was your first ride on that.
Yeah, first ride. It ended up being a rescue. So,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So and after that, we took it out and ran it through sea trials, and it performed flawlessly.
Oh, that's great.
You know, people love orange when they're in trouble.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Except when it's on the highway on a cone when I'm driving down.
So you know, system-wise, we've gone shore tie, security, bilges, main batteries, aux batteries, generators, portable devices, sewage, water, you name it. There's books and books on systems, and we've worked our way through all those. And
Wow.
We got to give Tony hats off. He's done a
Congratulations,
great
Tony.
job.
Thanks. You know, but I can't do it alone. I've got a lot of guys that work with me. Bob mentioned Paul from the engine company, and I got some regulars like John Wiedemann and Jimmy Brown and his son William and my son David. We kind of take care of all the machinery spaces.
And you know, one of the things really important, Paul, is I can't say it's because of the Bramble, but you know, Tony's son David has picked up the actual love for ships, the ship itself, and the Maritime, and he's been inducted into the Maritime Academy.
Oh, wonderful.
Up in
Congratulations.
Traverse City.
That's a great school. Great school up there.
It's a great school, and they only have, I believe, 66 people they take.
Yes.
Yes, it's a small school, but they all have a wonderful education up there, and you know, that's a benefit that
Yes.
it's those things you don't think about when you do something like Save the Bramble for history. And part of the other part is, you know, and Mike's been, when it's tied up to the shore, which, you know, we call the key, or in this case, the bean dock, Mike's the site manager for tours. And in that case, you know, he does a lot of good by people that walk on, enjoy the ship and walk off. They don't go on sea trials, but Mike, could you give us a little bit of history about the actual, you know, tourism for the boat itself?
Well, we'll be opening for our tourist season on April 15th. And we've had a steady increase in the number of guests that have been coming aboard since the ship was reopened in 2013. We have two different types of passes that are available. One is the bosun's mate pass, and this is a self-guided walkthrough. You come aboard the ship and we'll point you in the right direction. We'll give you a little overview of the ship and then point you in the right direction. Some of the areas are roped off, and these would be the areas where we don't want people who are unescorted to be in. That one is $7 for adults and $5 for children and seniors, and 18 and under is considered a child. The big one, excuse me, is the Commandant's Gold Pass. And this is a self-guide, or it's not a self-guide, but a guided walkthrough with one of our tour guides, either myself or Doug Smith, who's one of our other tour guides and a Navy veteran. And we are just now bringing another volunteer tour guide aboard, Tab Martin, who's also a former Coastie and a former crew member on the Bramble.
Oh,
So
God,
he
you
has
got
a lot of insight.
a lot of great stories there.
A lot of good insights into stories on the Bramble. And the guided tour, in addition to just the historical facts and the facts and figures of the ship, we really can get into some of the more in-depth things of life on a cutter, military. We bring them aboard, we tell them about the Bikini Atoll, we tell them about the Northwest Passage. We have a buoy on the buoy deck.
Oh.
It's a 620, and people are amazed when they come aboard on how big these things are. And we tell them why they are removed in the winter, what the job of the Bramble was to take these things out and then replace them in the spring. And they find that very interesting. We also take them back through the quarter deck, explain a little flag etiquette, what the flag is called on a ship, and it's actually called the National Ensign. And we have something else we'll be talking about in a minute on the National Ensign. Then we take them up to the bridge. We have the ship's radar up and running and let them see radar. A lot of people have never seen a radar scope. And we can point out certain things on the shoreline that they can see on the radar scope. We have the ship's radio working. We have the ship's 1MC system working. We show all of this to them, which is the ship's PA system. We also have several videotapes running throughout the ship. One in the radio room shows the radio traffic between the Arthur M. Anderson and the Coast Guard at Sault Ste. Marie on the night of November 10th, 1975. And of course,
Fitzgerald.
that's the anniversary of the sinking of the Fitzgerald. And this is the radio traffic with Captain Cooper, who was in command of Anderson, talking to the Coast Guard at Sault Ste. Marie. We have another one running in the Chief's mess, which is the Bikini Atoll test. We have one running in the Officer's Mess, which is the overview of the ship. That was produced by RISA. And then we have one on the cruise mess deck, which is the Northwest Passage voyage. So even for these self-walkthrough, you get to see these video presentations, and it adds to the historical value of the ship, gives you a good view of the historical value of the ship. We take them into the chief's quarters, the chief petty officer's quarters, and this is where it gets kind of fun, because when you go through with the Commandant's Gold Pass, and each tour guide is probably a little different, we interject stories and anecdotes and so on. Like with the chiefs, we tell them that these were the foremen, supervisors of all work details. They were non-commissioned officers. A lot of people don't know what that means. Well, as officers, they can issue orders. And if those orders are lawful, they must be obeyed immediately. However, since they do not hold a commission, you do not call them sir, and you do not salute. A lot of people don't realize that.
Right.
In fact, the old sergeants and chiefs get mad if you call them sir. They'll say, don't call me sir, I work for a living.
That's right.
We take them, like I said, back into the officer's mess. We take them up through the ship's office and then onto the mess deck. In the officer's mess, we actually have a menu posted on the bulkhead where they can see what the meals were like on board. People can get an idea of what the meals were like. We have several ship's models, including one of the Bramble. and we have one of the old Mackinac in her white paint. And we have one of a freighter, so they can see these models. That's all part of the tour. And so it, on average, takes about an hour and 10 minutes, a guided tour.
That sounds like a great tour.
It's great value. You know, for the money and the upgrade, when my wife and I, we walked through the ship just prior to its closing, before it went up for sale. Whenever I take a tour, you can imagine, as an engineer, a 15-minute tour is 4 hours.
Right, right.
I want to look and know everything.
That's right.
And they didn't know that.
Right.
So I pretty well wore them down. I got the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And 2 years later, we ended up buying. Mike wasn't on board ship. Actually, Doug was, and Doug gave us the tour. And now Doug's back on the ship, still giving tours. So,
that's great story.
you know, once a coastie, always a coastie. It's a great fraternity.
It's a home, it's a family, it's a marriage that those coasties had with that ship and their lives. They spent so many hours and trials and tribulations and everything else.
They grew up.
They grew up there.
together.
That's right.
And they'll come back as Mike. Mike's had car clubs show up, and you know, in that case, it's not individuals. And you know, why don't you give us an idea club-wise?
We have a picture here of one of the clubs that
What a great picture.
utilizing the bean dock, and they then come visit the ship. We've had scout groups come up visit the ship. We've had church groups, senior groups, all come up and visit the ship. And you know, we're proud and happy to have them aboard. And something else.
So, excuse me, while we're on it, as of the last muster, Tab is chaplain. So Tab goes, I could give tours, but I can also marry you on board trip if you'd like. So this year,
Have you had any weddings yet?
not yet, but this just happened last weekend.
Oh.
So, we're getting ready, so excuse me, Mike, go
I got
ahead.
a little thing from Tab through the American Legion, and he was a former coastal, as I mentioned. He was interested in coming aboard as a volunteer tour guide. And something else I've noticed too, and we have people come aboard, especially if they're wearing a military cap, they render honors. Now people are going to say, well, what does that mean? Well, that means when they come up the bow or up the gangway, they'll stop at the top, turn and salute, and then turn to me. I'm usually waiting for them, or Doug is on deck, and they'll salute and ask for permission to come aboard.
Well, it's wonderful.
So, you know, the old military courtesy still holds. And in addition to that, coming up on the Friday before Memorial Day, which is May 27th this year.
1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock, we will have our 4th annual memorial service.
Oh, great.
And what this is, we have several speakers come in. We have Mayor Rep from Port Huron. We hope to have Candace Miller this year, but we always have a representative from her office. We have a couple of veterans from the Coast Guard to come in and speak. And this year I'm also going to have Lieutenant Joseph Roach, who is chaplain for Sector Detroit, will be coming up and joining us.
Let's get that date again. It's the week before Memorial
It's the
Day.
Friday before
Friday
Memorial
before, of that
Right,
weekend.
The Friday of Memorial Weekend.
Okay,
at
because I
1
know
o'clock.
there's parades in Marine City, there's parades in St. Clair on Memorial Day, but this is the Friday before
Right,
that.
and
At
the
what
reason-
time again?
At 1 o'clock. And
1
the reason
o'clock.
we actually had to put it on Friday, well, it's a good way to start off the
Right,
weekend.
absolutely.
But because of the request for our color guard
Oh, yes.
at different ceremonies, this is the one time we can get them. So we do have a full color guard. We have a rifle squad.
Wonderful.
Taps is played. We read part of the burial at sea prayer, and then we put a wreath over the side. We do the table ceremony for the MIA POW as part of our ceremony. We also then have guests throw a carnation over the side to honor a loved one.
Wonderful. That's
Yes,
wonderful.
sir. So it's a good way to start the Memorial Weekend. It gives you a real good insight into what the weekend is all about. Not just picnics and parades and things like that, but it actually has a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
And this memorial service emphasizes that.
Great.
And then, as I mentioned, having this old veteran on when they come up and render honors, I had one here last summer who was an old World War II veteran coastie, and he had served on the Acacia.
Oh my God.
So, and his whole family brought him on. He had to be in his 90s. His whole family brought him on.
Great memory.
We gave him a great tour. We rendered honors. We saluted him when he came
Right.
aboard. And I had a button like this on, and I took it off, and I had his family assemble on the mess deck. And we called him to attention, honors on the deck, and put the pin on.
Michael, you're doing a good job.
You would have thought that I'd given him $1 million. His family couldn't thank me enough. So
Right.
we have a lot of fun with that. We're also going to be flying the national ensign for retired coasties and coasties who have served on the Bramble. If they contact us either through the website or contact Bob, get us the flag, we'll fly the ensign. You see a picture here.
Yep.
Again, the ensign is the American flag. And it's called an ensign either on Navy or Coast Guard ships. And we'll fly that. We'll give them a certificate of authenticity.
Great idea.
That it did fly, and then get it back to them.
Great.
So, looking forward to a great tourist season again. It's been a steady increase and uptick. We're doing more public relations with brochures and advertisements and advertising and so on, getting the word out where we are and what we're all about.
Do you need volunteers? Are you into that mode, or you?
You know, I was going to mention, because the boys, they gave a great insight to their activities and that part of the ship. It's a multifaceted
Correct.
venture. We're looking, and we're always getting coasties that said, I didn't know you were open, I didn't know you were doing things. How can I help you?
Yep, good.
And you know, your program's a good spot.
Thank you.
We can put out the word across St. Clair County. We're always looking for people, because part of it is, it's not, you know, any one ship, it's everybody's. And it isn't like there's a whole lot left of these. I mean,
No. Down to 100, you said.
most of them are museum ships. Most of them aren't up and running. They can't go steam, go on a cruise. They're tied to the dock. This is a very, very unusual situation, and that's the way we want it. We want people to come and tour it. We want youngins to come and ask a lot of questions and say, you know, what's this right here? What does it do? Be interested and enjoy it. And it's the gift that all of us, you know, quite frankly, are giving back, because, you know, the Coast Guard community is incredibly tight. Anybody needs something, you know, we all pull it together. We all help each other. You know, and, you know, after what happened recently in Brussels, it just underscores
Totally.
how different things are now if you let them be. And this ship and, you know, her great history is something that is going to remind us all, you know, we're brothers. And we belong together. Let's all have the same cause. And whether you're a tourist or you want to volunteer as part of the crew, we welcome everybody, and hope you enjoy it.
What's interesting too and fun is we'll be on the ship and we'll have tours come through, and it's rather peaceful even.
Right.
It's nice to sit up there on a Sunday or Saturday.
Oh, it's a beautiful spot on the
afternoon
river. You see a lot of
and
freighters
enjoy it.
going by.
When we get ready to take her out, we get people on like a Friday night before, and there's overnight people, you know, we're sleeping on board getting ready for a departure in the morning. You can feel that ship come alive. It actually has a pulse. Things are busy, people are going everywhere,
Yep.
there's communication. It is somewhat military. You repeat an order when given, so the officer issuing the order knows you heard it, understand it, so, aye, sir. And you can actually just feel the whole ship come alive. It's a fantastic thing.
Well, great opportunity for people to be involved here. This is just really good.
And we have a lot of new, exciting things. Some we can't talk about.
That's all right. We're going to have you back.
Some we can, but some I'd like to do, you know, a follow-up with you if we
Absolutely.
could, because
Well, we want to highlight this wonderful memorial ceremony that you're going to have, and obviously other things you're going to do too.
But we
Definitely.
appreciate your opportunity
problem.
to let us get the word out,
Well,
so.
you got good people here. Tony, you're a good guy. Mike,
Oh,
it's been
good
good
to
to
see
see
you
you again. And Mr. Klingler,
Thank
thank
you,
you very
Paul.
much
Yeah.
for all you're doing for the community.
Thank you.
And that'll be about it for this edition of the Roundtable. Until next time, I'm Paul Dingeman. See you soon.